This is President Jason Wright, and you're listening to Rambling About Washington.
Tonight, I'd like to welcome to the Rambling About Washington podcast, the host of Grant and Danny on 106.7 The Fan, my guy, Grant Paulsen. Welcome to the show.
Real, what's up, man? How you doing?
I'm doing excellent, man. How are you feeling right now, man?
I'm chilling. I'm ready for football season. Feeling good, man. Everything's good.
Hell yeah. I can smell the wings, the pig skin, and the fantasy football drafts coming right up on us real soon. Let's get straight to it. Friday night football, training camp in Richmond. What were your biggest takeaways that you got or being around the team and the vibe and the environment?
Yeah, so having just been out at Friday night football, obviously I wasn't able to make the trek down to Richmond with the time of the show and everything, but being at FedEx, first things first, getting to talk to the guys on the air as much as we have, I think they feel really good about picking up where they left off. We talk and debate on the show a lot on the Fan, me and Danny, like how much does a run at the end of a season help or matter? Does momentum carry over? We kind of, sometimes guess and speculate if it does or doesn't, but I think the players are talking as if it's going to. But I also like at the same time that they're not going to rest on last year. They feel like they have to reestablish themselves for the fans. They feel like they need to prove themselves again. So the vibes are good based on getting to the playoffs, pushing Tampa in a way that no one else really did. But I think they're really hungry, and that's awesome. There's also just been a lot of good competition. They had such a good offseason. There's a handful of spots on this roster where we're not really sure who's going to start or how the play time is going to be divvied up. So I'm excited about that.
I know you weren't able to make the trip out to Richmond. I was there for the entire week. I trust me, I got enough Richmond in for all of us. But doesn't it just feel different? It feels different this time, right?
It does, yeah. We can look at the record. Like I mentioned at the end of last year, right? Rivera's first year 7-9, and Jay did that a few times, obviously. But there is something very obviously that is trending in the correct direction right now. And I think it's one of those things. It's one of those, like, I like the saying, if you know, you know. Like, it's one of those deals where you've been around this squad, you've followed this like you have, like I have, for years and years and years. You can just tell, man. It's positive, and there's a hope, there's an optimism that comes from time to time. There was certainly some of those feels early in Shanahan or when Gibbs came back, and they kind of slowly went away. But before they did, the trend was going in the right direction. We have that right now, I think, in this town. Part of that is that people really believe in Ron Rivera. I believe, more importantly, perhaps as much as anything else, there have been a lot of changes made to the organization. There's a lot of people that are out from when I was on the Daily Beat, and a lot of people that are in now who weren't here before. And I think that gives you a chance. So I'm kind of excited to see where the whole thing goes.
Yeah, I feel like I've had optimism before the season because with this team, we always trick ourselves into, like JP Finley always says, Ashburn syndrome, our way into believing that we're something that we're not. This actually feels like a legitimate good team. Like, even without a staple at the quarterback position, it feels like we should be able to win a good amount of games and possibly win the division again, which no one does since like 2004. And have you been able to meet Joey, Kobe Begovic, and Jason Wright and those guys yet?
So I have met Jason Wright. He's been on the show a few times. It's been awesome to be around him and to see what he's providing. I think between Jason and Julie, and I mean, it goes way beyond that, right? I mean, we could name a bunch of people behind the scenes in the organization.
Oh, for sure.
There's been so much turnover. There's so many new, fresh ideas. I think it all matters. I think it's all good. But I'm with you. Like, we have had optimism in the past. The analogy I always like to kind of use is the Charlie Brown kicking the football, right? Where
Yep.
You go up and you're like, all right, here's the time, and you're ready to kick it, and then the damn thing gets pulled out. And so I think there's certainly people that are afraid to swing their legs. There's certainly people, I think, that are not going to maybe be completely invested. They want to see it to believe it. I respect that. I'm not going to get upset at anybody who wants to feel that way. I totally understand it. But they've got a shot right now. They've got the personnel, the roster in a good place. They've got a coach and a coaching staff that whatever you think of Rivera and his staff, I think the jury's still out on him a little bit as a head coach in the big picture, frankly. But I mean, he's a pro. Like, he is a legitimate NFL head coach, and his
So
staff
respected.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you move to the front office, and again, you can pick nits or talk about this draft class or that move that Marty Herney made or Martin Mayhew made, but those are NFL executives. Those are guys who have run teams. Those are guys that are respected around the league. So all of those things, plus the changes they've made just in the front office overall, there's a lot of reason, I think, to be optimistic and to I don't even like that word as much as hopeful. Like, that's where I am. That's my wife's a season ticket holder, and she has hope that this time is different.
It definitely feels different because, like, that word culture that we keep saying and we keep hearing in 2 off seasons with the team, Ron Rivera has cleaned up so much culture from 2 decades worth of shit show circus like antics, and it just feels so different going into this season. And we're gonna get deeper into the roster, the preseason matchup, and first like that. I want to hear your fan story, though. I want to hear how you got into the team, what made you fall in love with this crazy ass franchise, and what's kept you around through all these years of ineptitude. Because there's some type of sickness that keeps us all here.
Oh, it's crazy, man. You know that. So, I mean, for me, it goes all the way back to when my earliest memories are watching then Redskins games with my mom. My mom is still today a massive Redskins fan, and now Washington football team fan. But she grew up with that team. It was her and her dad watching the games. That's what they did. That was a big part of their relationship. As you get older, you kind of have more of an understanding, as an adult, of like what the relationships your parents had with their parents were like. And it was very clear that in their family, like, that meant something to them. She grew up in the Rockville area in Maryland, and watching games with my mom as a young kid, that's the earliest sports recollections I have, but probably like the earliest childhood recollections I have. Now, I don't mention my father, but he would be around watching those games as well. He was not nearly as big of a fan, and on Sundays he would kind of be, in the yard tinkering or doing stuff. He was, he would sit down and watch the games for a quarter or two and kind of make fun of that they were losing or whatever. But it was really me and my mom and my siblings that did it. And all the way up through when I started getting credentialed and covering games, and like I couldn't sit at home and watch them because I was on the road flying to different towns or, at FedEx Field. Like, me and my mom would get together to watch those games. That's kind of how it started for me, like just a family love. But I mean, it was like an addiction for like so many people, right? It was not a Sunday from 1 to 4 thing. Like, it was a week long, every week thing all fall. And then when the fall gave way to winter and the playoffs came and went and they weren't in it, then I was right back after it. And I'm scrolling, NFL draft stuff, and I'm looking up who they might take. And then when free agency came, I'm tracking, where the Jets going and who they're picking up. And like, that used to be at midnight that free agency started. I'm staying up all night. Like, this is my whole like teenage years, right? And this team was not good, but I wanted them to be, but I need them to be. Like, I would watch games differently. I would watch games for how many catches and yards Moss or Cooley had, or how many carries.
It had to be like that.
Like, you don't, they go 6 and 10, but like, you find ways to, like anything, to kind of enjoy it. So, and that was kind of how it all started for me. I got really lucky. Not to bore everyone, but my backstory in a nutshell is that around 10 years old, I started, and I'll use covering in air quotes here because I wasn't really.
You're a child prodigy.
I don't know about that, but at 10 years old, I started getting credentialed through Channel 9 in Washington, went to training camp, interviewed the players, and that was the 99 team that won the division. Went to Tampa Bay in January 2000 after beating Detroit at home, the only home playoff win at FedEx Field still. So I was like in Tampa for that, and I was on Channel 9 throughout training camp and the season for that. And that kind of hooked me, right? When you have that kind of access and you're around a team like that.
At that age, that's crazy.
Dude,
and
I mean,
that's like the season I got into. I was 8 years old that year. And
so
that's the first
season. Now, 31?
I'm going to turn 30 in October.
Okay. So, yeah, so you're like 2-ish years younger than me. So Dude, that season, and you can speak to this, but like that 99 year was like Brad Johnson
Stephen
throwing
Davis.
for 4,000 yards. I fell in love with Stephen Davis. Like, got me. I'll be a fan in 20 years because like Stephen Davis ran for 1456 that year.
Absolutely.
Like wearing that 48. Albert Connell on the outside with Westbrook both went for 1,000. That was the number 2 offense in the league, and their defense was, not great, but was pretty opportunistic and good, and they had some decent players. I still remember like the first play of that playoff game against the Lions at FedEx. It's the most packed I've seen that place. Like definitely the best environment I've seen maybe once or twice since like the 2012 game against Dallas, maybe the 15 playoff game against Green Bay. But Greg Jones had a sack for a loss of 7 on like the first play of that playoff game. And I remember, I'm a little kid in the press box. I'm not allowed to make any noise, but inside I was screaming, just losing my fake voice internally. So, yeah, I grew up loving this squad. People still ask me, like, are you a fan? Are you not a fan? Like, I don't really rock gear because, like,
you have a job to do.
I was on the beat, it just changes it forever. I covered the team. You kind of see how the sausage is made. Actually, this is kind of weird, but I'm just standing in my basement because we had to, behind the curtain here, my computer wasn't working, so I'm using my phone now. So I'm standing. Like, this is like 1999 right here, bro. This is
oh man,
my first game I'm credentialed to in a freaking hat. Like, look at the journalistic integrity there.
Hey, you were built for this, man.
I'm wearing a freaking team hat. So that shows you, like, and then, like, through the years, getting to, like, interview some of the players and stuff like that at the facility. So, yeah, when you get that taste at the water fountain and it gets kind of taken away, you're like, I want to do this forever, So that's kind of how things started.
Weren't you able to to swing like a David Letterman segment out of that?
Yeah, so it's funny. So that all started when I was like 10, the local stuff in DC. Mm-hmm. The Letterman stuff came about a few years down the line. So right between like ages 11 or 12 and 17, I did like 6 hits, 6 appearances on the Letterman Show, kind of scattered every several months. And that was always like based on whatever's going on nationally in sports. They'd fly me up if somebody canceled last second. They'd tell me at night, fly me up in the morning, tape at like 5:30, and would go up, stay in New York for the night, come home. But yeah, it was the coolest thing I got to do with that was I went to the Super Bowl 36 in New Orleans. It was actually Brady's first Super Bowl, the first year of Tom Brady.
Wow.
So it was
wow.
Yeah, so it was 13-point underdogs. Patriots, like Rams were heavy favorites, and the Patriots beat them. And I went there that week for a Letterman Show, and I did like, jokes for them, and they had joke writers come with us, and like we'd go up to players and mess with them and stuff as like a little 11-year-old kid. So I'm sure they thought I was a pain in the ass, but it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, man, that sounds like an awesome time. I don't know why I remember this, but I remember reading something like a while back when you were like doing the Letterman thing. You had a moment with like Joe Montana or Franco Harris, right?
Yeah. That was a funny thing. So, I mean, like I said, so that week, I was just a kid. So one of my parents came, my mother and my father, I'm not sure which. And then it was like me and a parent and like a couple camera people and audio people and then a joke writer. So like every event we went to all week, we were in New Orleans from like Monday to Sunday, putting together this package for the Letterman Show. They would send these joke writers. And so we would go to like the player access and they'd have me go up and, they'd shoot video of like Roman Pfeiffer was like a linebacker for the Patriots, like helping me with my geometry homework and like all kinds of funny stuff. But yeah, what you're referencing is there was a skit they had me do where Joe Montana and Franco Harris were on stage, 2 legends, Hall of Famers, like greats. And so right after this event, they're like on stage and I walk up to them and I'm like, hey guys, how about an autograph? And they're like, yeah, no problem. That's great. So I take out a notepad and kind of open it. I'm like, who do I make it out to? And they're just like, are you kidding? Like, so they didn't know, they're not in on it, right? So they're just get their natural reaction. So it's a bunch of stuff like that where people are watching at home. They're like, this kid is a jerk, but like,
but that was a bit.
Yeah, it was just a bunch of jokes they wrote for me that were really funny when they set them to music and put it together in like a 4-minute package to air on his show the night after the Super Bowl.
I mean, what was it like going back to school and you're hanging around, you're doing commercials with legends and shit? Like, how did like your friends and shit react to that?
Bro, it was so. The first thing I'll say is most people did not care. I mean, That's very real. Like my friends, if they're tight with me, like knew what I was doing, and I told them, and like they're, I don't even think at that time like text messages were a thing. It sounds like I'm dating myself, but like I got back and they're like, oh, that was so cool. Like, did you meet this person, that person? But like by and large, nobody cared. To the point where I did a thing with a bunch of the cheerleaders for the Patriots, and they're like surrounding me, and I'm 11 or 12-year-old boy and kid. And I got like these 13 or 14 like beautiful cheerleaders around me. And they want me to, they're like, the guy's like, all right, shout out one of the girls. Do you have a girlfriend? I'm like, no. They're like, shout out one of the girls you have a crush on at school for this joke. This joke's going to be, this is a personal message to, and you say her name and like, who's sorry now, huh? So the joke was like this, they wanted me to say like, someone turned me down for a dance. Now who's sorry? And all these cheerleaders are like high-fiving me and doing their pom-poms on my head. But I didn't want to out anybody or like pick a random girl, so I had to like make up a name. But yeah, nobody really cared. But I'll say the teachers thought it was tight. Like all the teachers, because they watch Letterman. When you're in middle school, no fifth, sixth grade kid is really watching Letterman. But like the teachers, they know who Dave is. They know how big a deal that is. So they would ask me all the questions. Like the kids didn't really care.
All right. So as you got into the local beat and you started covering the team specifically straight out of Ashburn, did like your love for the team like slowly fade away and it became a job, or like it's still there, it just doesn't shine as bright as when you were younger, but it might change if they win it all or something?
I'll say this. I mean, my love for ball has not changed at all. Okay. Like I get just as excited at 12:58 before a 105 kick today as I did when I was 7 years old. Like, I mean that. I mean, NFL Sunday ticket or red zone, let's say. When I'm sitting in my basement here with the 2-screen setup, like when that countdown clock is at like 1 minute on Sunday and I'm about to get red zone, they're going to look at all the game. Like I feel like a kid about to get his favorite candy handed to him. Like, I mean, exactly. I love ball. Now, my fandom for the team, yeah, it changes, obviously. I mean, you're butting heads with people. You have people in the organization that are mad at you, that are upset about different stories you're either breaking or working or whatever. And like, it's not personal, but it's just, the only way I can describe it is it's not work. I always say it beats working for a living, but like, it's my passion. It's what I love, but like your fandom changes. I went from a point where I can't wear gear for like those 4 years. I still don't rock gear. I mean, I wear Caps jerseys. I wear Nats shirts. I don't wear anything burgundy and gold, but do I want them to win every game? Yeah. Am I on text chains with 20 season ticket holders that I'm tight with? Of course. Am I tailgating with people at FedEx Field before games and talking shop like I would be if I was not in the media? Yeah. I mean, so people can say what they want. Like, are you a fan? Are you not a fan? I'm in the business of the team doing well and helping me out. I love football. And I think more than anything else, what you do is you see which players it's important to, which coaches are really, really good people. And like, you kind of root for those people while covering the team in as fair and balanced and an unbiased way as possible.
Oh yeah. And obviously if the team's success relates directly to what you do. So your job is better, easier, and the ratings go up if the team is making deep runs in January and February. So I can get where you're coming from that. And you mentioned the words burgundy and gold, which is like a perfect segue to the next part. I did a hit with Lake Lewis in DC last week for his After Practice podcast. We dropped a little snippet today of that piece. And in that piece, he says, from a fan's perspective, from a young fan's perspective, if the team was to go away from the burgundy and gold colors and kind of do what the rest of DC's doing and rock a red, white, and blue colorway instead of burgundy and gold, how would it affect me? And to me personally, I know the team's not going to change from burgundy and gold, but it wouldn't affect me. I was born in 91. 3 months after I was born, they won a Super Bowl and they've been bad for the rest of my life. I have not one time seen an 11-win season. I've also never seen us advance from the divisional round. So I don't know why the hell the colors of the uniform, the logo, or the name of the team would resonate so deeply with me that I would be so offended or emotional about it. I know everybody's experiences are different, and I'm not speaking for the fan base because I'm Mr. Fan Ambassador. I'm speaking from my personal fan experience, and that's how I feel about the name, the colors, and all that. What do you feel about that situation?
I think it's a good point. I think I probably agree with you. I mean, look, my preference, if I'm calling the shots, they bring me into the office and they say, hey, what are we doing? I mean, I'll probably ride with burgundy and gold and stick with it. I would have absolutely no issue if I woke up tomorrow and I heard they're changing their colors to go with what the Nats, Wizards, and Caps wear, because everyone else in town is, traditional, like red now. I would have no problem with that. They obviously have said they're not going to do that. Jason
Wright's confirmed it. Yeah.
Yeah, he said on my show on a bunch of places, like burgundy and gold is staying. But I mean, so I'm cool with that. To your point, I think that, if you are old enough to have been at the parades, to have watched the Super Bowls, it might resonate and mean more to you. I mean, my thing with the name, I'd throw the colors in, the logo, whatever. Whatever it's going to be is going to be weird to me initially.
Oh, yeah.
It could be the best name in the world. I could love it. It's going to be weird. It's never been that. It's not really going to be that initially. So whether it's Guardians, like Cleveland just did, or whether it's Red Wolves or I don't like whatever it is, that's what they're going to be. And in 15 years, it's not going to be that weird anymore. Like, I'm just going to be going to their game.
I mean, 365 days later, Washington football team, even though I hate it, it sounds regular and it comes out normally now. But it took a year to get there.
Right, exactly. And look, do I want that? No, I don't. I need a name. Like, I want a name. Yes. I'm over this Washington football team placeholder. Like, it's fine for part-time, momentary, get us to the end of the rainbow here. But, like, I want a name. Having said that, if they said tomorrow it's Washington football team, we're riding with it. Like, I don't like that. I don't care. I care about Chase Young getting a sack. I care about Terry McLaurin going for a buck. I care about Antonio Gibson ripping a runoff and like Ron Rivera having him ready on Sunday. Those are the things I care about. So if they're the, pick a name. I don't want to say I don't care, but I will get used to whatever it is, and whether I like it or not is irrelevant to me.
Yeah, that's how I feel too. Like, my preference is Wolves, not red. I think we need to just let R and red go. Let go of most of the old and just go with Washington Wolves. And I would prefer the team have like a deeper burgundy uniform with like Vegas gold instead of mustard gold. But I don't see it going there. I think the burgundy and gold's going to stay. I think they're actually going to pick a name. But the only thing I care about for the most part is a sustainable, professional, winning, damn good culture, like Bruce said, but an actual one, not just winning off the field like you guys have your segment and do. But we're going into 2021. We got the old man, the journeyman, the Harvardman himself, Mr. Ryan Fitzpatrick, starting quarterback for us this year. Do you believe that he'll get through the full season as the starter, or is the quarterback carousel gonna begin like we're used to here?
I think that's a great question. I think he will play 14 or 15 games. He'll maybe miss a couple with an injury, I'll say. Obviously, they got 17 on the slate, longest schedule ever. I believe that is partially because he's going to play well enough in spurts that the juice is worth the squeeze, right? The upside is going to kind of outweigh or equalize the downside, which is going to be problematic and negative at times. But I don't think Taylor Heineke is what a lot of people in the fan base think he is. I really enjoyed watching him at the end of last year. The December game against Carolina, the quarter he played was impressive, and I kind of was taken aback. You fast forward to the Tampa Bay playoff game, it was incredible. I was blown away by how well he played. One of the coolest things ever. I don't think that's authentic to what he would be. And I only say that in answering the Fitzpatrick question to say, Rio, that I think that if they had another option that was a viable option, I might answer this question differently. Like, I think Allen, honestly, if he's healthy, is probably a better NFL quarterback option than Heineke. Not to say that Heineke's a scrub. I think Allen's done it to a more regular extent at the NFL level. And I think Fitz ends up getting the call week after week because He gives them their best shot. It's why he makes 10 times as much financially. It's it's why he keeps getting these bridge opportunities. Like, he can run an offense. He's a leader. People in the locker room respect him, and he knows where to go with the ball. So there's going to be really good. There's going to be really, really bad. I think there might be a time where he gets benched, once, twice, a couple times this season, and Heineke or Allen or whoever comes in, but then they go back to Fitz the next week. And I think in the end, he starts the vast majority of their games.
I mean, I'll take it. Like, there's a full experience when it comes with Fitzmagic. It comes full circle every time. I know everybody wants to take these last 3 years in his PFF grades that compare to Rodgers and Brady's. Those are outliers. You don't see a guy for 17 years and hone in on a couple years of a little bit better than he was in the rest of his career. You know what I'm saying? But I will take what he offers us more than what Dwayne and Alex offered us every day on the week and twice on Sundays, because he's actually going to take chances and we're going to be fun on offense this year. So we're looking at a year from now, 2022, when the Washington Blanks open the season. If you had to put all your money in your savings account on it, who is starting for the Washington Blanks in week 1, 2022?
I love that question. I'm going to say Derek Carr.
Ooh.
Yeah. Here's why. Like, he's a random guy. He's a placeholder for whatever. Like, that to me is the type of quarterback they're going to be seeking. It's the Matt Stafford deal next year for the guy that's on his way out of an organization. So whether that's Carr with the Raiders or, we might be able to find a better one. But I don't think they'll be able to get Rodgers. I think they'll try. That would be amazing, but there's no reason
I'd cry. I'd cry.
I know, right? We shouldn't spend a lot of time talking about that. He'll be in Denver. He'll be somewhere where good things happen.
Out west.
Right. And so at that point, you kind of go to the next level. Like Deshaun Watson, I'd love to say, I think that would actually be a good answer for that question. I just can't, in good faith, answer that right now tonight, as we don't know, is he going to have charges brought against him? I mean, there's 20 allegations of impropriety where we're in a culture where they just, had to spend $10 million because of the toxicity and how they treated women. So that would have been, to me, a perfect fit otherwise. People move on fast in society, it seems like. And if he is cleared and there's only civil cases against him and nothing legal, I could see him finding a new team next offseason. I just think it'd be a tough sell here. So that's where I go to, like, the Derek Carr caliber of quarterbacks who are leaving their team and who need a home, and they're starters. They're better than, playing the draft lottery in the middle or late part of the first round where Washington could be picking. So I would say something like that.
I think Derek Carr, that's a good answer, because that's exactly the caliber of quarterback that we need to win here. And like, I'm not like, of course, getting a Rodgers or Russell Wilson or Deshaun Watson would be like absolutely insane. I'd probably live stream myself crying tears of joy if we would acquire one of these guys, but I just don't realistically see it. But we better at least make the call for those guys. I think more realistically, though, we're going to have to make a trade up in the first round for a young quarterback next year. Like Spencer Rattler, one of these guys we need to make the call for when it comes to the first round next year, because I don't know how many years we can sit back and say, look at us, we have a great defense, because I don't care what anybody tells you. Defense does not win championships in today's league to me. Like, it helps win championships in today's league. 9 out of 10 teams that are going to win the Super Bowl have a great quarterback. The Nick Foles and Flacco's, they happen once or twice a decade. And you have to have a great quarterback to compete. What do you feel about that?
You're preaching the choir. I mean, I'm 100% with you. I kind of, co-sign everything you just said and verbally retweet, I guess, everything that you just said. Yeah, it's not that you're wasting your time building with defense. I think it is a worthwhile endeavor, and what they're doing is smart, and you raise your floor. You're going to compete. You're going to be a playoff caliber team. But until you have a championship piece at QB, you don't have a shot. I really believe that. Like, a lot of people are very, very excited about this year, and they should be. This is a well-built roster. What gives me pause and what keeps me from really jumping totally into the pool is the QB position, right? I mean, it just doesn't happen in this league that you go get a journeyman and all of a sudden you go on a magical carpet ride. Like, there's 3 times I can basically find that in like the last 25 years in football. So I'm with you. I like the idea of trading up for a rookie. I would have been all about that this year, for the record, if they could have gotten up to the very top of the top 3. It would have cost a ton, and to try to convince people of that now after what happened with Griffin is very difficult. But I don't think you can stop swinging. It's like talking to your buddy after he gets cheated on or broken up with or something. Like, you can't stop dating. You can't stop calling and texting and just sit in your house by yourself now. You got to keep playing the game until you find the right one. And I would have liked to have done that this year, but I do think the way that they're built, the cap space that they have, kind of the roster with the youth on defense that they have, like, there is a window here where if they could get a veteran, like a Derek Carr, it sounds like I'm all about Derek Carr. I'm not, but like that kind of guy.
I like
if they have a couple years with a dude like that, who's like, let's just say, on a good day, like the 12th best quarterback in the league or something, like, to me, that could be a path to actually winning playoff games with this roster. So that's why I'm more in line with trying to go the veteran route, but it's easier said than done, and it's hard to forecast out that far.
Oh, yeah. And speaking of that caliber of quarterback, there was a guy here before, and people like to call Grant the Kirk Cousins apologist. And I'm going to tell you, I'm right there with you, because that is the best quarterback that has played in this damn town since I've been a fan of the team in my 29 years of life. How do you feel that a lot of fans, they like hate you and have like a disdain for you because you like Kirk Cousins?
Yeah, it's funny. It's a funny thing. I get paid to have an opinion. I have opinions that are generally backed by information, right? Either by way of my own research or sources that I have and people that I talk to within the Washington football team organization and people all over football. Most of my opinions come from smarter football people than me, right? I'm not going to go out on a limb and say a guy can play or can't play based on me watching them at practice or something. I mean, I'm not a scout. So that's generally kind of where I establish my thoughts on players. What happens a lot of times is if fans disagree with you, they get angry at you. And
I know,
that's
it's
okay.
weird. It's really weird. It's like they don't understand your job.
I think what it is, honestly, though, it's a Twitter thing, which is not real life to me. Like, people are really mean on Twitter and say terrible things. My wife's gotten off Twitter and whatnot, and that's fine. Like, I have most of them muted. I don't see it. But when I interact with human beings in the real world, like, we have good conversations and we talk about stuff, and nobody's that mean, like, Twitter is a weird place. I don't really think it's real. I know people, like, personally, that I have relationships with that'll bash the heck out of me in these little different like lunchroom tables that I call them, like, of like Washington football team fandom on social media, where they need their brownie points from their friends or whatever, so they'll join on me for an opinion. But yeah, I stand by. I mean, people don't like me because I didn't think Dwayne Haskins was going to work out here, or because I didn't think Robert Griffin was going to work after he decided not to run the offense in 2012. And I'll stand by those things. I mean, they don't like me because I thought Kirk Cousins was a starting caliber quarterback.
That you should pay. Exactly.
I'd say that so far, if you go back over a lot of the things that fans are mad at me about, and we see how they worked out years down the road, I'll stand by a lot of those opinions.
Okay. I respect that take. Talk your shit, Grant. But ultimately, with the Kirk thing, it's just emotion. Honestly, most of that stems from the fact that RG3 didn't work, and it hurts the soul of people to have to admit that Kirk was better, because I hate the whole narrative. Oh, he didn't want to play here. Why the hell would he have wanted to stay here? Like, with Bruce running amok of this organization, I would have left and got my money too. Like, people are mad that he chose money. Why wouldn't he choose money? We weren't winning shit here. Like, right. I don't understand.
Well, so the other thing is, to me, like, yes, I am a fan. We talked about that, right? but I don't necessarily view it through the lens of like taking it personally. If a guy leaves, if a guy wants to be paid, this is a business, and the team has to make a player feel wanted. They have to get ahead of this. Like the Nationals are a good example right now. The Nationals could have gotten ahead of Anthony Rendon or Trey Turner and paid those guys in advance, and they chose not to or weren't able to, and they left. In the case of Bryce Harper, Anthony Rendon. And like, to me, I'm not going to be mad at Trey Turner or who got traded, obviously different, but like Anthony Rendon because he left. No, I mean, he's not from here. He's got no reason necessarily to stay here. As far as I'm concerned with Cousins, like at the very end, in fact, if you go back, people like sleep on this. I was not of the camp to pay him close to $30 million a year, which is what it ended up at. My point was always pay these guys before they break out. Like pay these guys before whether or not they're good. And your job is to know that. Like you see them practice every day. He was in your building for years. I got people in my ear from past regimes, from the current regime, who are telling me this dude can play, this guy can start, he's going to be a top half the league quarterback. Well, what are you waiting for then? Like you get to the end of 15, you win the division, and now you have a chance to sign this guy at a very reasonable rate. And like we talk about numbers, you go back 6 years ago to 15, and the numbers we're talking about, that it's not worth to pay someone $20 million at quarterback. Josh Allen just had one good season. He's making $43 million a year.
I know, it's crazy.
Well, that number has been doubled in 6 years. So
exactly,
it's just silly to me. We spend so much time talking about like what is something worth. Do you want a guy that can play, or you don't, is the question. And if they find one, I hope that they take care of that guy really quickly next time.
Absolutely. And I don't like to count NFL teams' money because I understand at the end of the day, salary cap can be manipulated to the will of the team that possesses it, because the teams like the Saints, who have like 60 million in deficit, they figure out ways to still sign top tier free agents. So I'm not worried about the money in Daniel Snyder's pocket or what the team's salary cap looks like. But I'm gonna let you go in a little bit. I know you probably got to run. We got a preseason game coming up on Thursday. What players are you looking out for specifically, and who needs to make an impact to make sure they make this roster this preseason?
All right, good question. So De'Ami Brown, for me, I'm really intrigued by. Like, I want to see what this dude can do. I loved his game in college. I like the functional speed, right? He's not a burner comparative to, say, Curtis Samuel, who we haven't seen anything of, or Terry McLaurin, but he's a guy who can run. I think he's a technician. He can run routes. I'd like to see how they're using him because, he can play, I think, on the outside predominantly, but if he can kick into the slot, there might be an opportunity for him earlier this season. I would put him on that short list. It's easy, cop out, but I'm going to go Jamin Davis. Like my hopes for him are really high this year.
Me too.
I think this guy could be a D-Roy candidate. I mean, it's been forever since we had back-to-back years where you had D-Roy types. And after Chase Young last year, I think he could make 115 tackles and pick up a half dozen sacks and be an impact player who creates some takeaways. So I want to see him, assuming he gets some burn. I am intrigued to see Taylor Heineke, honestly. I know earlier I was talking about him. I'm not sold, obviously, as I said. I don't think he's a starter in this league, but I do want to see his control, his command of the offense. I think it'd be intriguing if he looked really good, because then if Fitz does really struggle, it does make it more compelling to possibly have him in the bullpen. So I'll be monitoring him. I didn't think that much of like what I saw in the little bit of the practice work that I got to see, but some of the reports coming out have been negative. So I want to see if he's a lights on guy. That could very well be the case.
I think he is. I think he's a gamer.
It seems like it, right? I mean, what he did that playoff game is just one of the coolest things I've ever seen, honestly.
Same.
I mean, it was crazy.
It was electric.
I'm like making jokes with my buddies, like, oh, this is going to be brutal. And then he's running all over the place. That was like the best quarterback game we've had in this town in years.
In years. It was electrifying. Like, I did not know what was happening. Like, what are we doing right now?
It was a show, bro. It was great. As far as a guy that needs a good game, I'm not going to say because of the bubble, but like, I think there's a starting job to be had maybe for Sam Cosmi. And we don't know yet, like, how much guys are going to play and who's playing a lot or who's not, right? I'm forecasting out kind of in the blind. But I think if Cosmi gets a good look at right tackle, if he shows really well, penalty-free, knocks out all of his assignments clean, makes a couple nice plays, gets to the second level and pushes some people around. I think there could be a path to him getting some week 1 run at right tackle because of all the time Lucas has missed. So that would interest me.
I know based on what I've seen in Richmond, he has got 100% of the right tackle with the ones reps in Richmond.
I mean, that's surprising. But I wonder though, is that because Lucas was behind and then the COVID stuff, or is that because they think Cosmi's that good? I don't know. They cut Moses, so that tells you they clearly like the guy, I would think. And then the last guy I'll throw out there is Bobby McCain in the secondary. When Rivera was on my show, I don't know why. It might have been that he was just watching film on him or something, but like he was more willing to bring him up and like compliment him basically than like any other player on the team. And it might have been we just caught him on a random day, but I haven't forgotten. So they need a free safety. Like I love Cam Curl so much. I don't know him and Collins together, like how that works. So I think there's a chance that you could see. I mean, he was a part of a defense that set records for takeaways in Miami. Like you could see him get a little burn.
And with the player I'm looking for specifically, I want to see St. Juice. I want to see St. Juice line up versus some NFL competition on the outside because Kendall Fuller, as good as he is, I think he is much better on the inside. And I think the plan taking him so high in the 3rd round is to eventually get him opposite William Jackson and to kick Fuller inside. So I want to see St. Juice mix it up. And another player I'm looking for doesn't even play for our team. I want to see Mac Jones because that's one guy in the draft process. A lot of people beat him up, but I think he's going to be a really good starting quarterback. Just because he doesn't look good and has a dad bod with his shirt off doesn't mean he's not a smart, intelligent, very adequate quarterback. I'm interested to see Mac Jones play.
He definitely has a dad bod. There's no doubt about that.
Sure.
I like dudes like that look like they don't spend a lot of time in the weight room. I got to be honest. I'm one of those guys. Now he didn't quite have my bod's like whatever like a grosser dad bod would be. But yeah, I want to watch him for sure. I'm with you on that. He was a guy, if he would have fallen into their lap, I think that would have been tough to say no to. Exactly. As he was sliding down the board, you're like, wait a second. Is this a thing? Are they going to get him here? Like, is that really what's happening? My dream would have been going all the way up to the board, top 3. And I really like Zach Wilson or Trey Lance would have been exciting for me. Somebody like that. I think Lance is going to be a problem just as an athlete on the outside.
Oh, he got picked to the right coach too. Oh my God.
Oh, Kyle's going to do big things with him. I mean, that's going to be fun. That reminds me of like 2012 was one of my most favorite years ever. That's another thing we were talking earlier about the quarterbacks and Griffin and Cousins. Like people act like I don't like Griffin. I mean, 2012 was the coolest year to be a fan of this team ever. Like I loved that season. I was on the beat. I was around. I still have a decent relationship, in my opinion, with Robert Griffin. I texted him recently about becoming a broad gig. Yep. Yeah, the ESPN gig, and I hope he has a hell of a career doing that. In 2012, they ran that offense. And if they would have kept doing that, I think he would have continued to have a lot of success. And I think Trey Lance is going to, man. I think he's going to – that's the way the league is trending, right? It's like – and that's one area where, for me, I've kind of evolved in what I'm looking for in the quarterback for this team. I've always preferred, like, pocket passers, and you need guys that make plays from the pocket. But if you can't make plays with your feet in today's NFL, it's really, really hard. Like, yeah, Brady wins titles. He's different, Breeze, whatever. But you need a guy that, can pick up 11 yards on like a 3rd and 8 just when the pocket's breaking down. And I think Trey Lance is going to be that dude.
Okay. I think he's going to be that guy too. And I honestly, I wanted us to go up and get him. I thought the Niners were taking Mac Jones at 3. I wanted us to go up to 4 to get Trey. That was like my draft crush for the longest. And when we didn't do so, it kind of hurt for a second, but the linebacker was a good choice. I got a couple lightning round questions for you, and I'm going to let you go for the night. Spicy chicken sandwich rankings, power rank top 3. What are your top 3 restaurants for spicy chicken sandwiches?
I'm gonna go. Popeyes is the 1 seed.
Hey, yes. There we go. There we go.
I'm gonna go. I mean, maybe like a Bojangles 2, and KFC 3, probably something like that.
I got Zach. Have you had Zaxby's?
I've never had a Zaxby's spicy chicken sandwich.
You need to get. I'm gonna tell you. You need to get a Zaxby's, and if you come down to Woodbridge, go to Hot Chicken Kitchen. Have you been to Hot Chicken Kitchen yet?
No, I got a brother that lives there though. I'll have to look it up.
It's an authentic military and minority owned Nashville chicken spot, and their sandwiches, I'm talking, they come with the homemade slaw, and they drench the chicken, a thick piece of chicken, and they drench it in the sauce, and there's like 8 different spice levels. It's like actual Nashville chicken. So you should definitely check that place
incredible.
out. It does sound incredible. What is your alcoholic beverage of choice?
If I'm just like out with buddies at a bar, kind of low key in it, I'll go Jack and Coke. But old fashioned's my favorite drink. If I'm at a good bar, I'll get an old fashioned.
Okay. I'm a wine guy myself.
Okay.
Give me a bold NFL prediction for 2021. It doesn't have to be Washington based. Something bold that you could see happening this year.
I like that. I'm gonna say, is it bold to say that the Bills won't win the East?
I think that is bold. Yeah. Who's winning it?
I think Miami. I'm not a big Tua guy, or New England. I mean, as crazy as that sounds, maybe it's your boy Mac Jones. I don't know if it'll be on offense or what, but I just think Buffalo is going to be good, but they're going to cut. Like last year was a really, really special year, and I think they'll come back to the back.
Okay. I think Justin Fields is gonna somehow get the Bears into like a wild card. Like I think he's gonna get this job at some point, and he's gonna come in and shred it because he has a huge chip on his shoulder. Because there's no reason he went in the teens in the draft, and that really was Ohio State. It's Dwayne Haskins' fault at the end of the day. And speaking of Dwayne Haskins, last question: who was the worst quarterback here in Washington? Dwayne Haskins, post 2012 RG3, or QB guru John Beck?
Ooh, that's tough. I think I'll go with Beck, maybe. I don't like throwing my guy John Beck under the bus. We had him on my show recently because, as you said,
he's great.
He coaches all these dudes up. I mean, there were some tough. Why? I went to London. I had to get a passport.
The Buffalo game.
Yeah, the Buffalo game. I think it was 23-0. I think Fitz actually, now that I think about it.
It was Fitz.
Fitz started for that game, didn't he?
He did.
It's so funny. Beck got sacked, I think it was 10 times in that game, and they got shut out. I don't think Dwayne had that day. You know, he had some tough ones, but I don't know if he had that one. I feel for Dwayne. I think he's physically gifted. And he actually does remind me a little bit, just trait-wise, of Ben Roethlisberger. I even thought that before. Like, he is, not obviously on the level of Ben, but I think that's a good landing spot for him. Hopefully it works out. Hopefully he matures a little bit and grinds his way through it. But, yeah, I guess I would have to go. I don't know if I've seen anything quite like that Toronto experience.
I don't know that. I think it was 2014 game RG3 had against the Bucks was one of the worst quarterback games it was Tebow bad. It was so bad. It looked like he did not belong in the NFL.
Wasn't it out of a bye week, or am I making that up?
I believe it was out of a bye week, and I believe the next week was that Niners week where he was weird at the press conference.
that after the bye week thing was like alarming, right? That was 14, you said?
I think it was 2014. Yeah, that was a year where all the quarterbacks played.
You had 2 weeks, and I remember like talking to a couple of the players after that game, and they were like, "Oof, let's burn this film." Like nobody needs to watch what we just did on offense. That was bad, but I don't know, man. They didn't get shut out and get sacked 10 times.
Oh, yeah, true. But I don't think I've ever seen a coach go to the podium and shit on a quarterback the way Jay did after that Tampa Bay game.
That was the game. Yeah, he learned a lot. I think that was a good lesson for him because he learned like you can't necessarily do that, or you can, and you better know that that's kind of the end of the road in a relationship with somebody if you're going to go out there and do that. But yeah, I've never seen a coach eviscerate a player like that. He was clearly mad at Griffin because if I remember correctly, Robert, in his mind, whether it was fair or not, I think he didn't think Robert was taking enough of an onus on it himself. Kind of, he was like, "Hey, This is about all of us. And Jay knew what had just happened, which was it was a really tough game for him. But I think if he had it, I'm quite frankly, I know if Jay had it to do over again, he probably wouldn't have thrown as many haymakers that day.
Oh, yeah. But, yeah, I appreciate your time, Grant, man. I appreciate you stopping by to chop it up with me. I got to meet you at the stadium the other night, and hopefully you're going to be seeing more of me during the season. It's my first-time season ticket holder. Love what you guys do with the show. I think y'all have a good balance of analysis and shtick. Y'all are funny. You bring personality to the show, and I appreciate you stopping by, man.
No, I appreciate you very much. It's awesome to chat with you. Hit me up whenever. And, yeah, I people watch and listen, and hey, you can have different opinions with people and not hate them. We're all in this thing and like football, and got into this because we dig the team, and I'm just trying to eat a chocolate chip cookie and hang out with my kids and watch a little football. So we'll all be okay. If someone has an opinion that you don't love, it's gonna be okay.
Exactly. It does not always have to be adversarial, but I'm gonna let
it's not that serious, right?
It really isn't. We all have to wake up and live our lives the next day, but your job's going to get a lot better in a few months when Washington wins 11 games for the first time in my lifetime, man. You have a good night, Grant.
I hope you're right. Everyone says, oh, you guys want them to lose. You're crazy. I need them to win. It's good for business. Let's make business boom. If they do that, it'd be the first time in my lifetime as well. So let's do it.
Hell yeah. And that's going to do for today's episode of Rambling About Washington. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Rio_Robinson91 and at Raw Podcast W Rio. Until next time, hail to the nameless football team.